a woman in her 40s and a man in his 40s, the woman will have anywhere between sort of 17 and 27 in their KiwiSaver. A man generally will have 38 and above.
So we got Ilma.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
We've known each other a little while on
Yes.
Zoom consultations.
That's
and
right.
we're technically competitors, so let's see how that goes.
So if we can come together.
Yeah, there's hope for
There's
humanity.
hope.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, well, I think always a good way to start is like, what do you do? Who do you work for? What's the meaning of life? You know, just simple questions.
Oh yeah, simple questions. Of course. I'll start with the simplest one.
Yeah.
So my name is Idma Mani and I'm a financial advisor with National Capital. And the meaning of life, now that's the easiest question of them all. To be helpful, I think. To be of service.
Okay. So do you
Yes.
think humans are predestined to feel that way?
I don't think that they're predestined necessarily. I think each can choose their own path, and there's different ways of being helpful, different ways that people perceive being helpful. And I think that's my understanding, the meaning of my life.
Yeah.
And I can't put a blanket statement for everyone else because everyone will have their own idea of it,
Yeah.
I think.
Nah, this is, generalizing. I've never met every person in the world, but they're all the same, really.
Same, but different.
A little bit different. Well, we better talk about something meaningful because I don't know about you, but Clive is the founder of National Capital, and he's like, hey Ryan, when I was on the podcast last time, we talked about cockroaches. We didn't get into the finance part. So in honor of him, I'm not going to ask you any questions about finance.
You're going to ask me questions about cockroaches?
Yeah, sure. What are your thoughts? You know how they got the brain in their bum, and also that, if there's a nuclear explosion,
Okay.
they'll probably survive. So what are your thoughts on cockroaches?
So does that mean that potentially instead of apes now future humans might look at some kind of evolution from cockroaches?
Yeah. Well, World War
Maybe?
III and post-World War III, we're going to be an apocalyptic world of hybrid cockroaches. What do you think part would change the most? Like, do you think it would be like, a human head with little legs running around, or
Maybe
or not even look human?
Maybe I reckon we'll have like antennas as ears. I think our senses will be heightened in some way.
So we can work out to go through doors.
Yeah. And so long as they still need financial advice,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I'll be there.
National Capital, because National Capital, it's digital advice as well as humanized advice. So maybe National Capital and cockroaches are the last things that will survive. And that's why Clive made a cockroach game as his first ever game, because he knew.
See? It's all coming together.
He's going to be listening to this, you fuck. Anyway, I can swear that up to you. So, story, I think that's useful. So, here you are, a chief financial advisor, solving the world's problem one call at a time. But how did it start? Where are you from, for one?
I'm originally from Albania, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here for about 17 years now. So I moved when I was a teenager with my family. My immediate family is also here in New Zealand. My parents, my brother. And
What's Albania like? Is that how you say it?
yes, it's lovely. Mediterranean country, and it's located just above Greece. So think of a similar coastline.
Okay.
With the water on one side, on the west of it, and then as you go further east, you have all terrain. Really, you start from the sea, fields, mountains, skiing. You can do everything in one day.
Don't worry, I'll get to something productive. This is interesting to people. So I went to Athens. It sucks. So I hope it's better than that. But so Albania, has there ever been like, is it a chill country? Is it first world, third world? Is it like, my geography sucks, so I'm assuming some listeners might be like, I've heard of it. I know there's a good rapper from there.
I would say, and hopefully any Albanians listening will forgive me if I get it wrong, but I'd say second world coming up on first.
Ooh, watch out. Up and coming.
Up and coming. Yep.
And what's it like there? Like, is it similar culture, different culture? Have you drawn, like, you can't do sweeping generalizations as such, but do you see a difference when you come here compared to there?
I think the nature of the location of the country itself, being in Europe and neighboring countries, the lifestyle is busier than in New Zealand, so it's a bit maybe more dynamic. New Zealand, I find a bit more laid-back lifestyle, very good for raising children and that kind of thing. Albania is more fast-paced, I think, in general, but the people are lovely, and hospitality, I would say, is one thing that we hold dear as our pride and joy. We do welcome people from all over the world. Nice. And treat them like they're our home, and like they're our brothers and sisters.
So in summary, New Zealand's boring. That's what I heard. It's less dynamic.
Summer in New Zealand, no, I wouldn't say that. There's lots of spots that it's all happening.
Yeah.
I've been to places like Tauranga and Mount Maunganui that I found
a few people in flip-flops walking the streets. Yep. Lots going on. No, I love New Zealand. Okay, so Albania is 17. So, well, you're a teenager. You've been here 17 years. Why did they leave, and what were your parents doing? Like, what were their jobs?
So they had their own business back home, clothing business, a clothing store. And we moved here. My uncle had been living here for about 10 years at that point. And so he told us how great New Zealand is. Really great lifestyle, like I mentioned before, and great opportunity in terms of studying for myself and my brother. And I was getting close to university age at that point. So we decided to move here for a better lifestyle.
Was your English on point when you came?
I'd been studying English for a long time, about 12 years before I moved here.
Wow.
So I could understand. It took me a little bit to be comfortable speaking it. In fact, I remember coming here on the plane from Singapore to Auckland, and we were going through customs, and we'd brought, uplifting our life, we'd brought some pots and pans in the luggage with us. And the guy asked me, what's this metal that you've got in your suitcase there? For the life of me, I could not remember the word frying pan.
Bomb.
So I just kept...
CC bomb by accident, just like your studies. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you secretly imported some frying pans.
Yes. Secretly.
Yeah. It sounds a bit dodgy if you ask me. I know about you Albanians. No, I don't really know anything. Okay, so you come here, your English is alright, your frying pan game's not the best.
Not the best. So I just was able to gesture somehow the motion of frying something, and he was able to understand what I meant.
It's universal. I met a girl in Germany, and her parents didn't speak any English, and I stayed at her house over Christmas. And only German I knew was like horrible things to say to anyone, because that's what you learn when you travel. But we found a way using frying pan language.
Yeah, sign language it's
essential.
Very essential.
I swear to God, like I won't know the language, but I'll get what they're saying. You know what I mean? They're like gobbledygook to me, and I'm just that might sound bad if I say people's language is gobbledygook, but it's hard to understand them. Yeah, but I can understand them. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
Absolutely.
These untraveled people are judging me right now. Okay, so you come here, uni. What'd you study?
So I came here and I went through a few different degrees at the time because I found that I wanted to go into the workforce more. So I was not quite finding myself at the time. I did a bit of health science, a bit of biochemistry.
What was the first job you got?
The first job that I got here in New Zealand.
Yeah, or Albania.
It was actually here in New Zealand that I got my first proper job when I was 17, and I was working as a checkout girl.
Oh, me too. Checkout Chicks Unite. Yeah. You call it that as well? Yeah. I haven't got in trouble for saying that yet. We had a checkout operator of the year competition.
Yeah, we did too.
Did you qualify?
I have a couple of certificates.
Oh,
yeah, as a supervisor of the year and checkout operator.
Wow, supervisor of the year. I never made supervisor. I don't know why, bureaucracy. But
bureaucracy, man, I tell you.
Yeah, no, it's fucked. Legit. Otherwise, I might still be there if they treated me right. I could be doing their marketing, but no.
You could be.
Yeah.
Their loss.
Clive's going to hate me for this. I think it's going well, firstly. So probably why I don't do.
Going great, because I know we're going to come back around to National Capital.
Yeah, I'm glad you're confident there. So first job, checkout chick. You probably had the odd fry pan come through, and you were ready for that. You knew what it was.
I was ready. I knew it at that point. I'd had some practice. I even knew what a pot was at that point.
You made it. It was just downhill after that. This is value. I swear to God. Okay, so checkout chick, and then biochemistry was that one. Do you remember anything from that? What did you learn?
I mean, I remember dissecting a rat.
Yeah,
at one point.
I did that. Yeah,
and I've got the picture to prove it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the brain of the cell?
Oh, that is the mitochondria, isn't it? No,
that's the energy. That's the powerhouse.
The nucleus is the. Yeah.
It's all happening. I didn't know what I was doing, so I just sort of did everything, and it turned out to be mostly veterinary science. But then I, started playing video games till 9 a.m, and then only going to lectures at 5 p.m, like labs, and just chopping up rats and then going home again. And then the exams came and I just didn't turn up. So that was a bit of a waste of money. So yours is better, obviously. Maybe.
I'm a little better. I mean, I guess I didn't waste quite as much money but probably much the same.
Oh, really? But, you came here for the education. You just wasted the opportunity. Did you start getting judged by your parents? Being like, oh, no, you're just coasting. We came all this way, sold our clothes, business, just so you could talk about fry pans.
It was tough. It was tough because, obviously, that was not the plan. The plan was for me to go to university and do something earlier on. But they came around.
I think that's an important discussion. So I think this will add value. So far, it's been off the charts value. This will just be something that's a little bit in comparison. Is the expectation parents put in their children to study, and not necessarily do something they like, but what will help them live a secure and safe life, but unhappy. So, and that's a characteristic that's assigned to especially people that, immigrate here. There's an expectation they made sacrifices so you could have good education and good life, and that's sort of a common channel to achieve that. Mm-hmm. So what would your advice be to someone that might be listening now that's in a degree, has that expectation of the parents, they don't really like it? Like, how do they get through it, or what should they think about, or should they just suck it up and finish it?
I'm not sure I'm the best person to give that sort of advice, because I also have some regrets of my own, in the sense that I'm very happy where I am now, and I am happy with my journey, but also I do wish that I had found what I wanted to do sooner, and maybe sticking with university at the time, I would have been able to find it sooner, perhaps. It would have given me the discipline that I needed to stick it out. And everyone's situation is different. So depends on your relationship with your parents as well. I'm lucky that despite everything, my parents support me and are happy with my life choices. They've come around at the end as well. And not that there was ever any rift, but it is hard for things to go not according to plan. They always want the best for their children. And so I think communication would be to discuss with your parents what you really want to do. And I think if you're really passionate about this change that you think you might need to take in your life, I think parents will listen and come around and support you, because they can see that you're really passionate about this thing. So I think it's important to build that trust in this new path that you're choosing for yourself, because at the end of the day, parents just want the best for you. It's not like they're holding you back because they don't want the best for you. They're just maybe scared that this new path is not gonna work out quite as well as the original path. So long as that trust can be built, and they can also be reassured that you're passionate about this, you'll have their support no matter what.
Nice. So get better parents and stick it out. Yeah, good. I heard that too. Did you hear that, everyone? No, but I think communication is important, and yeah, you're right. You talked on it. Instead of being angry at your parents and be like, "Oh, why are you putting this pressure on me?" Yada yada yada. Meanwhile, they're living at home and relying on their parents, but actually having a clear channel to communicate. Hey, I'm passionate about this. I'm dedicated. I know you're fearful. I understand your feelings. This is what I'm doing. I just am not happy, and I don't want to be unhappy anymore. So my way of strategy, just to interrupt whatever flow you're going to say, my plan was, I paid for the uni myself, so chill from the checkout check stuff, and then just traveled and just did everything you shouldn't do, and then worked it out. That sucks. So don't, it's fun, but it's unfulfilling.
People also, I guess, need to make their own mistakes and learn their own way, just like you and I did. And
speak for yourself.
And then the parents,
I make mistakes. Sorry, yeah,
just
parents.
like I did. I mean,
yeah, good. That's good.
No, I think, I think parents just want the best for you. So whatever happens, so long as you keep that line of communication open, things will work out.
Cool. Someone might be inspired by that, believe it or not. Yeah.
I'm glad.
Some people might be listening like, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, is this going to be about finance soon? And I have to push this button every 30 minutes. I should have told you before. So, okay. You do this degree. You have clear trust and communication with your parents. Eventually they come around. How did you suddenly decide finance, It's not the most... You love it. Me, not so much, but what I just like people. Money's just part of it. Yeah, where'd that come from?
I decided to go back to uni and finish a degree that I wanted to do, and I discussed whether it was going to be management or finance at the time before making a decision on my major. I had a chat with my family, my fiance, my brother, my parents, people I knew, and we have this expression in Albania: you ask 100 people and you do what you want at the end of it.
I like that. I might move there. Sounds like me.
And it's because it gives you that counsel, that it broadens your horizons, and it also, in a way, tests your resolve. Is this the thing you want to do or not? And I saw finance as the clear pathway. It started off with my family, my parents, myself setting up for retirement, and creating a good lifestyle for us, for myself, my fiance, our future children. And then once I got into it, I just really enjoyed to be able to do this thing now for other people. The access that I have to the knowledge and information, it's just bursting out.
Yeah, you're smiling. Yeah, you must be something wrong with you. It's good you exist, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. What a compliment. Okay, so this finance degree. What's the degree actually? Like, what do they teach you? I swear to God, you could learn finance in 3 months, and then like, what else is there? But that's just me. What do they teach you in this degree? Is it like the level 5, or is it like?
It is very similar actually.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's a lot of overlap
Okay.
in information. The level 5 just goes a bit further into the regulations and the things that you need to do to comply.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah.
Yep. It's my favorite one.
Everyone's favorite part, the compliance part.
Yeah.
But it's necessary, and I had a chat with a colleague actually a couple of weeks ago, and we were trying to find something that makes the compliance side of things a bit more appealing, and we thought of it as as an armor rather than an anchor, because it gives you the ability to be fully transparent with your services. And anyway, we're getting besides the point. The information that you're learning on your level 5 and at uni, there's a lot of overlap, and level 5 goes into bit further into that specific. Uni with finance, you can take lots of different paths. I've become a financial advisor, but you could become an analyst, you could become a portfolio manager at some point and go that way.
How long is it?
Work for a bank.
How long's the degree? 3 years or?
3 years.
That's mad, eh? I swear to God, it's 3 months.
It feels like that sometimes.
I skimmed it, just to pass. I was like, oh, I get the gist. And then it was multi-choice questions for my one. Yours was probably a bit more challenging. So, I mean...
Yeah, we had assignments and multi-choice.
Yeah, what was an assignment you did? You retained a lot, I can tell. For finance, just an assignment.
Right, okay. Yeah, for example, I remember one particular one where we assessed the Comvita honey making company.
Oh, yeah.
And assessed its situation, whether it would be a good opportunity for people to invest in it or not going forward, and doing projections about what the company would look like going forward 5 years, 10 years from now. What is its current situation? What is its past history? And
we won't tell you to recommend that.
I'm not going to give a recommendation or smart. Not. I'm just remembering.
Were you right, though? Were you right?
I don't think that was the point necessarily.
What's the point of an assignment if you can't fucking get it right? Yeah.
I think the point was just to test us whether we have the tools necessary to compile these reports.
Yeah.
Teach us how to compile the reports for the real life situation.
Push a button, AI does it. You just go to Yahoo Finance. Your whole thing was a waste of time.
Thousands of dollars down the drain. Why didn't you tell me this before?
Yeah, own the market. Next. Like, I get it. For anyone listening, like a level 5 is essentially kind of like, I don't know, like a polytechnic course that you can do. You can smash out a course and become an advisor. Maybe you do it in 6 months if you're focused. Maybe less if you're actually focused.
Yeah. To be fair, when I first started, I didn't see myself becoming an advisor. I knew I wanted to get into finance. And so I started the business degree, chose my major halfway through my first year, as you do. And then it was only when I came across National Capital, when I was doing my internship, that I saw the opportunity to become a financial advisor. I really enjoy talking with people. I enjoy just being able to share this knowledge of finance that I have gathered, and National Capital offers me that opportunity because we are able to get in touch with so many people and service and give recommendations much faster than a typical financial advisor, and that's what allows us to really be able to have this reach out there and
I'm just letting you talk. This isn't sponsored by National Capital, by the way. It might sound like it. What was it like when you came to National? So internship, are you free labor initially with interns?
Yes.
Oh, sweet. So I could hit up these people wasting years of their life to get a degree they could learn in 3 months and be like, yeah, you want to work here? Good to know. No offense. Like, maybe there is more to finance. I need to do my research.
You're a financial advisor yourself. You know what there is to it.
Yeah. If I taught someone 2 weeks, I reckon you get the gist. Like if we're doing 8-hour days, 2 weeks, because, the fundamentals, about liquidity, make sure you own something, there's a market where you can sell for it. It's tax deductible, so it's tax efficient. Make sure that it's diversified because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, so we want to own the market and spread it across international, national, and own certain types of asset classes. And then make sure you get your structure, the right provider, and the strategy in terms of insurance to protect you.
It sounds like a no-brainer.
The hard part's been giving a fuck, being interested. I just the way I see myself is that someone wants something in life, I just create a roadmap to get there.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, right? That's what you're here for. That's what I'm here for, is to create. There's no magic formula. You just do your research and then you pick the right place for you. But that's why we're here as well, because not everyone has the same passion to do that research or the time. Someone might rather spend time with their family, with their children.
Yeah, me.
Have a hobby that's not finance,
Yeah, you're talking to me.
So, yeah, exactly. So leave it to someone that you trust, that are going to do a good job, and who wants to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think whether it's finance, whether it's any component of your life, you should only be doing the things you're passionate about and that you're good at. So outsource the rest. That's why business owners burn out, is they try and do everything. But I think the most important thing as a business owner is to realize that you're not the right person for the job, and outsource it to an intern for free. So, what was that like when you first came into National Capital? How long have you been there?
I've been there for about a year and a half now. Just over a year and a half.
So when you first came in, was it boxes like Amazon and there was a painted sign?
We've got a very nice office, actually.
Yeah. Well, watch out.
We are lucky to be in the position to have a nice office, because being a young company and in a sort of startup situation, but also having a parent company with the resources of a bigger company, it puts us in the situation where we can work towards our goal in a more advantaged situation.
Yeah,
I guess you would put it.
Fair. Leverage. So go.
So we do have offices as well.
You got an office.
It was not just
long story short, it's an office. See, that's why you wasted 3 years in your finance degree, because you take too long. Now, so you're in. How's it grown since you've been there? What was it? Do you remember the funds under management when you started as now?
Yeah, I remember when I started, we were somewhere around 30 million of funds under management. Now we've gone above 70.
Oof. What, in a year? That's mad, though.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
and how many advisors when you first started? Excluding the big company, just working on National Capital?
2.
2?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. It was the director himself. And
yeah, old Clivey.
someone else.
Watch that episode, by the way. Learn about his cockroach game. If you're listening, Clive, I am talking about National Capital. I've talked about it in the podcast a lot, a mastermind group where we meet and we just roast each other and support each other to be better, and we're all competitors. So it makes no sense. But that's why I'm just sort of fucking with them. But it is an amazing company. I think there's a real need for it. I hope it's the one that rises to the top. Because essentially there's finance is inaccessible to a lot of people. They don't necessarily want to know, or if they do know, they gravitate towards the greed or the fear. So they're missing out on those opportunities. And then advisors can't support the masses because it's cost ineffective. Whereas he's got a model that can, because it's a digital advice platform. So to help, it takes maybe an advisor 2 to 3 hours to do a plan. How long does it take National Capital to do a financial plan?
It takes us 0.8 seconds.
Yeah, you fuck's sake. That's so true. You got to be fearful of AI. So what are common financial challenges you hear? Because you're I think you're probably closer to like what it's actually like out there, because the average advisor only getting a few appointments a month or whatever, whereas you're just like fucking endlessly on the phone.
That's true. There's days where I can easily have 10, 15 calls a day.
Yeah, mad.
And
booked calls as well. Huh?
Booked calls, yes.
That's mad. So what do you see as common misunderstandings about investing or about finance that you see?
One thing that stands out to me is that a lot of people don't know that they can be in more than one KiwiSaver fund with their provider. And so if they're not ready for one particular strategy or for a certain level of ups and downs that they're going to see in their balance, they could have something in the middle as some type of split. People don't realize that that's a possibility. And the other one that I notice a lot is that people tend to be in a fund that's more conservative than they need to be in. So they're leaving a lot of money on the table purely for the fact that they're not in the right fund for them. Someone who's in their 30s, or even as you get closer to retirement, people tend to lean towards a conservative fund. But we have to keep in mind that now people are not just living to their 60s or 70s anymore. People are living another 30 years after retirement. And we have to make the money last longer. And also it gives you that timeline where you can be in something more growth-oriented.
Yeah. Well, there's a few pieces to that. There's behavioral finance, psychology finance, it's something like that, where if you have different pockets of your investment in different avenues, so one's a little less volatile but it's going to be for your income, and one's more volatile for the long term to protect the purchasing power of your money.
That's right.
So you got those two things, and it's actually a lot easier for people to process the ups and downs having that split. And you're right, I don't think people are aware of that. But what might you say when someone's like, oh yeah, but risk, I know of this person during the finance company collapse in New Zealand, they lost all their money, or the global financial crisis, like isn't a higher growth more risky? What do you say? You get that a lot, picture.
I do get that a lot, yes. And there's a difference between risk and volatility. So a high growth fund or an aggressive fund is not necessarily going to be riskier than a balanced or a conservative fund, because the funds that we research and recommend, particularly with KiwiSaver, because I speak KiwiSaver because that's what we research, that's where my expertise lies. We look into it deeply, that we know that they're well diversified, like you mentioned before, not just across industries, but geographically, across sectors of the industry, across different markets in the world. And so they're invested in hundreds of companies around the world. For you to be actually losing your money, it would mean majority or all of these companies would go bankrupt at the same time. And for that to happen, we're talking some kind of apocalyptic scenario where we're eating tins of beans in a bunker somewhere.
You say
so
that
hopefully
interesting.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
And so, but what is different is this volatility, is these ups and downs. An aggressive fund will have anywhere between sort of 93 and 99% invested in the stock market. So it will go up and down in line with the stock market much more than a conservative fund, which will have only about 20% invested in the stock market. So these differences will dictate how much your KiwiSaver balance is going to oscillate in good times and bad times.
Yeah.
And when you've got time on your side, you don't need the money for the short term. There is no reason why you can't be in a more growth-oriented, a bit more aggressive fund. And we're all about finding that sweet spot between, where people can sleep at night, knowing what's going to happen to their money, and making more money.
Yeah. I just tell them, don't worry about sleep. We're going to make you as much money as you can over the long term. All right. So what about specific scenarios? So the most common way with KiwiSaver, you got your first home, you've got kids, you can set them up for free a lot of the time. I don't know if it's all the providers, but some of them.
A big portion of them will offer free setup for the kids. And they won't have to pay any fees until they turn 18.
You can tell you've done 10 to 15 calls just in the sale. Financial advice is selling, to be honest. It's both. Like, it's solving a problem in a meaningful way, which is great sales. If it's not a great sales, then you're just being sleazy, full of shit.
And people can tell.
Yeah. Well, they haven't caught me out yet.
That's because no matter what you say, you care.
Yeah, true. Good. Well said. So I didn't have to admit that, but so, okay, these different scenarios. You got kids, you got first home, you've got retirement. There are other things, permanently migrating. There are other things like get sick, financial hardship. But what should people be mindful of in these different scenarios to maximize the opportunity?
I think one thing to be aware is the time that you've got on your side. That could either work in your favor or not. So the time that you've got on your side will generally, alongside your own tolerance as well to these ups and downs, will dictate how much you can, how much risk or volatility, how much volatility you can take on. So if you've got a short-term goal and you're looking to purchase a house in the next year or two, and this isn't advice, please don't just go and do what I say right now, because this is your situation, and every situation will be different. Nice. So
compliance.
Please
You've got
do
your armor.
yeah, please do seek advice. But generally, as you're getting closer to your goal to withdrawing money, you want to eliminate as much volatility as possible, because you don't want to risk having to access the money in a time of market correction where the market has dropped and you are needing the money, and that way you're going to realize any losses that might have occurred at that point, and it drops. Once you take the money out, there's no chance of regaining it from that original balance. So you want to avoid situations like this, and therefore it's important to, year in, year out, keep up with your KiwiSaver. That's what National Capital does, after all, is year in, year out. We will I'm passionate, what can I say?
Yeah, nice. No, that's good. nationalcapital.co.nz. Use my affiliate link down below. I don't know. So you got,
it's important. It's just important. It's good practice to see where you're at and keep track of how close or how far you are to your goal, so you can take any measures necessary to avoid any situations that will put you back.
So on that, there's probably going to be a lot of people worried, because KiwiSaver, give or take, around about 2007 it was started. Mm-hmm. Haven't really had much collapses apart from COVID, where it went down and up suddenly. And they're looking at it and they're like, oh, it's down, what the hell? So why are there structures in place that, let's say the provider goes bankrupt, that protects them? And why is it not resulting in a loss of money? Like, why is it not necessarily a concern?
Because the money is actually not held with the providers themselves. So the money is held in trust funds outside of the provider's reach. It's not like they're keeping the money in their pockets or in their bank accounts, and once they go bankrupt, the money is lost. The money is actually held back. And if the provider, for whatever reason, goes bankrupt, the money is held back, and it's a government-run scheme, so it's more heavily regulated than most managed funds out there. A KiwiSaver is another managed fund, but it is heavily regulated because it is people's retirement money, and alongside with first home and so on. But it means that this extra level of regulation creates that safety net for people to be incentivized to save for their retirement, and to trust their providers as well, and to trust that they're going to be okay going into this scheme they're going to be helping themselves to bridge that gap that there might exist between what they need for retirement and what NZ Super can give them.
Fair, well said. And pretending like I know finance is a custodial trustee, I believe. It's a separate entity.
That's the one.
Paid attention at school. Yeah, so that's an important consideration. Is like suddenly they've heard of the stories where like this, my business associate Greg was one of the first ones to bring in a certain structure like that in the 80s, where he was in the corporate fraud unit, and he saw a lot of people losing money, and he found that it's better to have the financial advisor have nothing to do with it. So he created a separate entity, a custodial trustee that he got from the Aussies, brought it over here, started doing it. So what actually is in KiwiSaver? Because people see these quarterly reports and they're saying, fixed interest and this gobbledygook about shares and listed property, and what does all that mean?
So a KiwiSaver fund will have a certain amount of shares in them, so shares from companies in the stock market. That's what is considered your growth assets. And part of it, depending on the fund, they'll have different percentages. The other part of it will be invested in things like term deposits, or government bonds, companies that pay dividends. So you want, that will be your income assets. That's things that are a surefire way they're going to pay an exact amount every month to your KiwiSaver, and that's coming through to you. And the rest of it's going to be oscillating because the stock market oscillates and they don't have a fixed return coming. So that's why they're called growth assets, because they're constantly growing over the long term. When you look at it from a bird's eye view and you're looking at a graph from the last 10 or 15 years, or even 150 years for as long as we've had a stock market, yes, it's up and down. There's that zigzagging curve going, but it actually always goes on the upward trajectory when you look at it from a big picture point of view.
I'm taking notes on how to explain stuff. Hey, I've never government bonds, and and if you're looking at the report, so every KiwiSaver provider has to publicly list on their website a quarterly report, quarterly fund update.
That's right.
And then on there you'll see those different categories, so the cash and cash equivalents, they're called, similar to what you're saying, term deposit. And then the bonds, also known as fixed interest, which is just a loan agreement. You get a percentage of it and then you can on-sell it. So just on that, and then property and shares, or called equities. With property, often you look for something called a listed property, because it's kind of like if you're trying to sell a house on an island and there's no one there to buy it, what's it worth? So with listed property, it's on an exchange and there's an agreed value. But anyways, I you know all this, but I'm just saying it for listeners.
No, it's great. I mean, I also...
You're going to steal it back, are you? How can we... Well, that's the whole game.
I also love to hear how other people, explain it and how they understand it.
Well, this is the one I use for comparing it to direct investments and to like diversification and having a managed fund. Is you think about, you're trying to get across a cliff and you're trying to achieve the goal, which is on the other side. And there's two ways you can get there. You can go on a rubber band, or you can go on a bridge. So a rubber band is direct equity. So it can go, you're invested in one company and it could go down and snap and you fall to your death, or it launch up and you get there quicker, but we don't know. With a bridge, sure, it moves a little bit, but you're still going to get to your destination. So this is what I use. I don't know if it's good.
I like that.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
What's another way you explain things? Just to add more value to the listeners, in actual fact, just to me, but... whether it's that or something else, like your go-to.
I have a metaphor that I use when it comes to explaining the current market situation, why it's a good idea when you're set up with a good provider, you built that trust, you're good to go, why it is a good idea to either stay in that growth fund that you're in times like this, or maybe even buy a bit more if you've got the funds available. because the metaphor I use is think of it as the stock market as the best washing machine or the best laptop. And it's on sale at the moment.
Okay.
You've wanted this laptop for ages,
Yeah.
and it's finally on sale. So for the same amount of money, now you don't just buy one, but you can buy 1.5. Not that you would buy 1.5 laptops, but for the purpose of this metaphor, let's assume you would. And unlike the laptop, the market is always appreciating, because I mentioned before the curve is always going upwards. And that goes a bit back on the whole humans are innovators. We're always looking for better ways to live our lives.
Yeah.
And the market is driven by people. There's people behind it.
I like it.
So we're always going to be okay. There's going to be times of oscillation. There's going to be times of correction. There's going to be times of hardship. But there's always going to be someone driving it forward. And the adjusting period, hard as it is, it's also an opportunity. That's why you get paid more. That's why you have the higher returns in the growth-oriented funds. You're getting paid for the headache of going through that volatility, for holding that faith, if you will, that things are going to be fine.
I like it. Every time you go on your sales pitch, you get more passionate. It's just good financial advice. I use cans of tuna, same analogy. I mean, washing machines and laptops are better. No one actually wants cans of tuna. I eat it pretty every day. So I like tomato and basil, Sea Lord. Get some of that stuff.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan, but my fiance and my cat love them.
Well, he's a legend. I like that. It's linking me to a cat. That's fucked.
I love my cat.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that. So, just to be devil's advocate and be a fearmongerer, some providers aren't good. I'm not going to label them because I got told off last time I did that. I was like, don't get this one. But they're fundamentally investing it wrong. So they're investing in a few companies, and they're not diversified in the way we talked about. So there is a risk that, the provider could go under, and the whole point, well, not the provider as such, but the investments that they pick are wrong. In terms of the fundamentals of investing, using those 4 asset classes, cash, bonds, property, and shares that we mentioned, and diversifying it, you're protected. The custodial trustee that we talked about, protected. Mm-hmm. Bad investment, not protected. So I think the whole differentiator between being successful financially is the two things: is picking the right fund, like you're saying, the asset allocation, more shares, yada, 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 and the right provider.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Just to do a little plug for National Capital, do they solve that problem, or what are you guys doing in 0.8 seconds that's so valuable?
So we've got the whole investment selection team behind that recommendation. So we've got people that are looking beyond past returns and fees when we choose and recommend providers. If you are just looking at that, you don't need us. You can just do that yourself online. So we're looking at what are their investment strategies? How do they choose these companies? Who are the people that are managing your money? What is their expertise? What is their success rate? We're looking at documents like their statement of investment policies and objectives to see what their values are and how these values align with the values of our clients. And that's how we can mix and match the best provider for the right type of strategy, because we're looking at the providers and the funds that they've got out there. What is the best fund? What is the best diversified fund that will suit this particular strategy that this client of mine needs? And so making sure that we have researched in depth where they're investing your money, that's how we can then confidently recommend a certain type of fund that we believe is going to do well in the future as well.
Nice. I encourage this, really, essentially. But I rate, as I say, I rate Clive in terms of his value set. I don't know if he wants me to say, but essentially, the back end software costs like, over 100 grand just to build it, to be able to do a plan in 0.8 seconds. And he'd create it because he was a paraplanner. He's like, fuck this, using his brains. I don't want to do that. So it is incredible. And people might be thinking, okay, well, it cost him 100 odd grand to make this software. And this isn't, I essentially just advocate for people I believe in. And you're one of the advisors, so we've had ongoing conversations, and you seem like you're a good person from what I gather.
Thank you.
But
I am.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, humble as well. So what does it cost then? What's the catch?
So there is no catch, but of course we've got to make money. It doesn't cost the investor anything because we are currently working with 12 different providers. There's about 28 or so out there. And the providers that we work with, the fees that they're charging people were designed to include advice. And so they outsource that advice side to us. And we get paid the same by everyone. So there's no incentive to recommend one over the other. And that's how we can actually just go and choose and confidently recommend, okay, this is the right type of fund for you that you need based on these requirements that you have. This is the bridge that you need to gap with your KiwiSaver. This is the fund that's going to bridge that gap for you.
Nice. Yeah. So essentially the provider pays and the client doesn't, and it's the same. What is it, 0.2?
Yes, 0.25 actually.
Oh, that's steep. That's steep. But, the provider pays it, so yes. Well, yeah, or it's incorporated in the fees.
It's incorporated in the fees. So the client goes to the provider. They're paying, let's say, 1% in fees per year for that particular fund. 0.25 would come to National Capital. 0.75 would stay with the provider.
Yeah.
And now we give the advice ahead first. So we deliver the advice. If the client decides to implement that advice, that's when we get paid for us to continue to service their account, give them the annual reviews, give them the performance updates, provide that ongoing support, and make sure that they continue to be in the right fund and have the right strategy for every particular phase of their life or financial situation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, that the same provider will continue to be the best provider for them year in, year out.
Yeah.
And we have no qualms about saying, okay, this provider or this particular fund is no longer suitable for you. You need this fund, and this provider no longer serves your purpose because they don't have the fund you need, so you need to move here.
Yeah. I mean, not stacking the sales pitch, but essentially it's the most scalable way I can see where people can get the help they need. And his goal is to reach 1 million, help 1 million Kiwis become financially secure. So, 70 odd million's good. We'll get going some more so people can reach out for that. On another thing, you're telling me off here about the savings gap. And I didn't actually know about it until you brought it up.
Yeah, there is a real issue in terms of savings gap from starting from working life, and then we've seen research has shown that it translates into retirement as well. Excuse me. Part of it is caused by the actual gender pay gap. Part of it because women will take time off to have children or look after the family home, different situations. They take a break from their career, and then obviously when there's no income going in, there's no KiwiSaver contributions either, and that translates into not quite the same standard of living and not quite the same payout in retirement for women as it does for men.
What's the gap? We've got to get the soundbite. So in terms of KiwiSaver balances or whatever number you have. So how does a man's KiwiSaver balance compare to a woman's one in general if all factors are the same?
all factors being the same, so a woman in her 40s and a man in his 40s, the woman will have anywhere between sort of 17 and 27 in their KiwiSaver. A man generally will have 38 and above in their KiwiSaver balance, all other things being equal. Most other things being equal. Perhaps maybe the gender pay gap itself will contribute to it.
Cool. I mean, the biggest thing is, you know, your KiwiSaver is based on a portion of your income mostly. Some people do self-employed, and then the rate at which it increases will be determined as well. You imagine by if someone's taking time off work, or if there's some sort of disparity in their income because of unfairness or inequity, or because of occupation choice or inaccessibility to management roles, that gap's going to get huge.
Women also generally seem to not be investing quite as much as men. And so it's important for us in the industry, and then hopefully beyond, to make it more accessible for women, create an environment where they might feel comfortable sharing their finances, their financial plights, and that way once you talk about it, once it's out in the air, we can find a solution. It's usually the either lack of knowledge, lack of confidence, maybe they're not at that stage of their life or finances where they saw themselves being, so maybe there's a little bit of embarrassment for that. But trust me, in the year and a half that I've been there, I've seen a lot, and there's no need to be embarrassed. The better you talk about it, the sooner you sort it out, the better you're set up, because that's all that matters.
Yeah, you don't want to be head in the sand. We had, you know, Girls That Invest. Yeah, yes. We had Sim. We had her on the podcast.
Oh, that's so cool.
Way back when, before she made it.
Oh my God, I have to go back and research that podcast now to hear it.
I think it's 100 episodes ago.
Okay, that gives me a good ballpark to look for.
Yeah, 187, if I had to guess. But yeah, that's her whole thing, is when her experience when she came to try and understand investing was it very, very masculine and very inaccessible. There weren't really many women being represented in a way that made sense, and there's huge variation. Like, I haven't met it. Like, I can't speak on men, you know. Like, a lot of men probably don't even think I'm a man, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not very but like there is either an inaccessibility in terms of the gender pay gap, in terms of, you know, investing, or like men might, you know, go all in and they can lose more money. I saw, like, I think it was Hatch, not that I would advocate for them, but it's a good vehicle to invest, but the investments they have aren't necessarily good. That women are less likely to invest but make better decisions when they invest.
I have come across research that says maybe just a slight more in terms of returns. Not a huge amount, but women, when they do invest, do a little bit better, because we tend to kind of maybe make less moves in times of market correction, and stick to the goal, and that translates in better long-term returns.
It's a dangerous topic. I think 67% of the audience on this podcast are male. So we're not trying to ostracize or alienate any
exactly
group.
That's why I'm saying it's maybe just a smidge. Don't worry, nothing to worry about.
I'm sure you're a good investor, Dave. Don't worry about it. There's 1% non-binary, or 0.1%. Shout out to them too. I don't know what their investment comparison is, because I don't know if there's enough data. But we love you.
Absolutely. And if you want financial advice, Ryan, that's what it's here for. So
go to you. If you want advice, either or. Yours is a scale. If you want KiwiSaver advice and you don't want the advisor to be incentivized through accuracy and recommendation, and you want to feel in control, I think National Capital was the go.
Yeah. And I'm glad you touched point on that, because one of our goals is to also empower people with the knowledge they need to be confident investors. And I have quite a few clients now coming back for their annual reviews and expressing how much more confident they feel now and how much more they know about investing after having gone through this journey of being a client for the last year and receiving educational material, I guess, or just access to information that leaves out a lot of the jargon.
Yeah.
And I think people really appreciate and enjoy that.
Yeah, I think the biggest reasons from what I've seen anecdotally is why people don't get an advisor. They think they don't have enough money. They think it costs too much. They're afraid to deal with it. Like they're not think they're in a position to do something, so they keep their head in the sand. And then they have a misconception of what investment actually is. And Greg, his big analogy is speculating and investing. A lot of people think investing's bad because they compare it to speculation, using the rubber band to get across the cliff. But this is investing, and you can take more of a risk with your income and pursuing your career, but just own the market. Just like, don't worry, just invest, leave it alone, don't worry about it, gear it towards, like, my value to the clients isn't much, like, to be honest. Like, they come in, you might give amazing value, but if they come in, they want a goal. I'm like, when's the goal due? And they're like, this time. I was like, do that and let's leave it. Okay. And then we help them with everything else.
But that's value. You've just given them a surefire plan of success.
What changes their life? Like if they never came across you and I, the outcome, like even Vanguard, which is one of the largest passive investing tools out there where you can go and index, they had Advisor Alpha, and they found that people would do better with an advisor because they'd stay on course, not because the advisor knows all these things, keeps them there. There's another study, Money and You, where they found that people would travel more, save more, and have a higher return with an advisor.
That's right. There's research that shows people do generally 4% better in terms of returns having an advisor than not having an advisor.
Yeah, and that's not because, they're making big calls in investment. It's legitimately just picking the right fund for the time horizon and sticking to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the provider. Some providers are crap, as I say. You won't say that, but that's fine. I'm not going to name them because I'm a learner. So how do they find you if they, I know you guys have this KiwiSaver health check. Do you still have that? Have a look.
That's right. We do.
Okay. So like if someone's like sitting here, okay, you made a good spiel. You guys just did a sales pitch for 30 minutes. I got a little bit of value. What's my next steps to empower myself with my finances?
Come through the National Capital website. So nationalcapital.co.nz. There's a big green button that says, take our health check now. That will give us enough information about your situation that we can provide a recommendation. We'll speak on the phone together to discuss anything that might concern you about the recommendation or nail down the strategy. And then we implement that.
Cool.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
So if anyone's bored, push that green button and play hard to get when Elma's on the phone. Nah, I'm not sure. I don't know. Test your rejection handles. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me very much.